Hey guys, so this week's virtual craft is one you're familiar with a bit of a twist. We're making heat-sensitive slime that changes color depending on the temperature. Now we've made slime before, obviously, but we've done it in person, so this will be the first slime one we've done where it's done virtual, but I made sure to give you all the ingredients, everything you should need. But this time we're going to add a little something extra. So I just want to introduce you to that extra ingredient. It's called thermochromatic pigment. It's just this little powder. Ooh, smoky. It's this, for any parents listening, I just want to add, it's perfectly safe. It's just this colored powder that changes color in different temperatures. It's pretty simple. Let me see if I can get it to do that. Yeah, like if you notice as it stays on my thumb, it starts to slowly turn from a red to a pink, but we're gonna put it in the slime, that way it can change different colors in there. But it's the key piece to making our slime change color when it's hot or cold, and the powder and all the other things you'll need for the slime are all in your kits. I made sure to kind of like measure everything out for you mostly. I think the only thing you'll need that I didn't put in there is a tablespoon of water, but otherwise that's it, and that's pretty easy to grab. So now that we've got the explanation and the boring part out of the way, let's get started. All right, so the first thing you'll need is obviously a bowl to start. I threw in a bowl in all your kits just in case, because I didn't want anyone to have to choose to like slime up a perfectly good bowl they have in their cabinet. So I threw in a bowl. It might be a different color than this one. This was just the one I had. But yeah, you'll basically just have your bowl, and you'll start with the 1/4 cup of glue. So let me grab that real quick. I have to measure it out just because I didn't beforehand, but for all you guys, you'll have it all measured out, the glue, the starch, the pigment powder, so you don't have to measure anything. I unfortunately do, so let me just pour all the glue into the bowl. I also threw in a plastic spoon, so same thing, so you don't have to slimify your own spoons. I recommend before you add this, until you add the starch, don't use your hands. You'll want to use your hands. I recommend not, because until the liquid starch goes in, it's just gonna be glue and sticky, and then you can't touch anything. All right, so all the glue is out. Once all the glue's in the bowl, we're gonna leave the spoon in there. You would just do a teaspoon of water. Now this I didn't give you, so you'll just have to get tablespoon of water, my bad. So let me just pour a little water in there. Dump the tablespoon of water in here. So yeah, so just once the glue's in the bowl, 1 tablespoon water, you can get that at home, and just mix it together. Now use the spoon for this. Otherwise, like I said, it's just gonna be sticky. It's just gonna be wet glue. So just use the spoon to mix it until it's all mixed together. I'll probably speed this up just so it goes a little faster until it's all nice and incorporated. There. So yeah, so this, once it's all mixed together, the water and the glue, it'll look nice and clear. You won't see any water. It'll just look like really, really drippy glue. So that's the first part. Then after that, the next step is to add we're not gonna be adding the powder yet. We're gonna be adding the food coloring I've put in your kits. Now, I will have given you different colored food colorings based off of what color powder you get. That way it shows up better. For the red powder I've given you, you'll use yellow. That way, when the pigment fades out of color, you'll see the yellow a lot easier. Now with the food coloring, you don't want to put a lot. I'd say 5 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay, I added an extra 6, not by choice. So I'm gonna real quick mix this together just to get that yellow color. I'll speed it up again, don't worry, you don't have to watch that part. There. Yeah, so once it's all mixed together like that, it'll kind of look, if you have the yellow food coloring, it'll kind of look egg yolky. Just make sure it's all mixed together. You don't see any white or any streaks of darker color. It'll be if you add like an extra drop like I did by accident, that's totally fine. It's not gonna be super duper dark, because we're gonna try and stick to like a lighter color. And then, yeah, so once that's mixed, then you get to actually hit the step where we're gonna be using the powder. Now, I have the powder measured out for you guys. I have to measure it because, like I said, I didn't measure beforehand, my fault. But you guys won't have to measure anything. You'll just have to take whatever I've given you in your kit and you just dump it right in there. So let me measure mine and I'll show you what you do. My powder is measured out. Yours will be too. So whatever I've given you, you can just dump right on in. I'm gonna try and do mine carefully. Basically, just throw all the powder in there. If you feel more comfortable, like putting in a little mixing, because I will admit, the powder does take its time. Mix slowly. Otherwise, it's gonna right out. Think of it like flour. Like, have you ever baked anything and you've put flour in something, and if you try and mix really fast, it floofs back up in your face? Yeah, that's what this is gonna do. So just mix real careful and slowly. You can mix a little faster once the pigment powder is all mixed in there. Now I will admit, it's gonna fight getting mixed in together. It's gonna take a minute, so just keep stirring it in, but it'll turn into, like, if you're using the red one, it'll kind of, with the yellow food coloring, it'll turn into an orangey red. Just make sure there's no like fluffy, floofy bits mixed together. That's how you know when it's mixed perfectly. Oh, shoot. Let's see. So I might speed this up until it's all mixed together. And once it's all mixed, I'll show you what it's supposed to look like. So yeah, so when it's done, it's gonna look all mixed together. You might see little speckles of color, but that's okay. As long as it's not powdery like that came from the side, just like move the bottom, see if you have any stuck to the bottom. If you don't see any, it's perfectly mixed. It's gonna be kind of an orangey color. It'll probably get more red when it's cold again, but for now, that's with the pigment powder all mixed together. So I'm gonna make sure with that mixed together, then we'll move on to our next step. Now, while I'm measuring out the next step, which is the liquid starch, I forgot to mention with the pigment powder, if you ever want to try it yourself, you'll probably have to order it online for the thermochromatic pigment. It's only 2 or 3 teaspoons. I used 2 because I thought it didn't change color enough with 3. So that's the only measurement for that. I had to measure it. You can measure it if you ever want to try it again, but for now, you just don't even have to measure anything. You can dump yours in. But for the liquid starch, which is the next step, we're gonna finally do the sticky part and kind of unstickify what we have of our slime. The liquid starch is just 1/4 of a cup. I filled mine up. With that, you can dump all of it in at once, or you can do it a little at a time and still it starts to get sticky. Whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm gonna kind of do it a little at a time. Now, I'd say start with the spoon until it starts to stick together. It's not gonna be a pretty process. It's gonna look gross and sound gross as, well, it's slime. Slime is kind of ugh at first. But yeah, you can mix it together with the spoon until you feel comfortable sticking your hands in there. I am a big baby, and I don't yet. So I'm gonna use the spoon at first. But I used only a little. You can dump the whole thing in there. There's no problem with that. It'll probably get less sticky faster. But yeah, if you see it's just starting to mix together now. So it'll start to get there. I'm gonna add a little more, and then once it stops sticking to the sides, I'm actually gonna take my ring off real quick. Well, joke's on me, I can't take my ring off. So I'm gonna have to just wash my hands and my ring very thoroughly. But as you can see, it's just starting to come off the sides and de-stick. So let me roll up that, except the fact that my ring is gonna get gunk all in it, and dive on in. I'm gonna do it one-handed because I need at least one extra hand to do other things. But then you can kind of knead it, play with it, and as you do, it'll start to get more, like less sticky and more slimy. And if it's still a little too sticky, you can add a little bit more of the starch. Now it's gonna make some noises. I'm gonna use the spoon. You guys can go full throttle, both hands in. You do what is mostly all comfortable for you. I, like I said, am a big bubble blowing baby, so I am gonna go with one hand and just slowly. Now if you can actually see, it's starting to change colors as you play with it because the slime's getting warm. Now if I left it alone, it would probably go back to that really dark red that you see right on the spoon. But for now, it's gonna be like an orangey yellow, bright yellow in some places. But yeah, that's coming along good. I think I feel just comfortable enough to get in with both hands and really start to squish it together. Yeah, now it's turning yellow. See? It'll start to turn like a reddish, orangey, peachy kind of yellow color. And if you leave it alone, it'll turn like back into that. Now, if it's still a little sticky, you can throw in some more starch. I kind of like this consistency, so I'm okay with this. Now, you can wrap it in saran wrap, you can stick it in a plastic bag. If it's sticky again, to keep it safe, it can stay out of the fridge, but if you want it to last longer, I'd recommend keeping it in the fridge. I'm gonna drop that for a quick second, let it kind of mold back, see if it'll change color. Yeah, you can kind of keep it in a bowl and saran wrap it. You can keep it in regular saran wrap itself. Just make sure you have a twist tie for it. See, yeah, it's kind of yellow, lighter yellow, red. You can basically, but I would recommend keeping it in like a fridge or keeping like somewhere cold. That way it'll be a bright red when you pull it out, and it's not gonna go bad as fast because it'll last up to a week. If you want to do another one, you can always email me at the library or ask me about it. I'm gonna send you a recipe for what it is, and I'll even put in a link for where you can get the thermochromatic pigment to do it. Now, I don't know, I might have heated it up too much, so I don't know if it'll turn back into that dark red color, but you can kind of see it here. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, so it'll start to do that. Now, it could, if you find that it's still sticky again when you play with it later, just use a little more liquid starch, or even, probably liquid starch would work better than baking soda, but that'll kind of thicken it up a little bit again, so it's not as sticky. But yeah, that's how you make thermochromatic slime, and if I let it sit long enough, it'll probably go back to that dark red, and then I can use like the heat of my fingers to show just how cool it looks. Let me see if I can wait it out to turn red. All right, it took a minute, only because the room I'm in is very warm, but I got it to turn back to its original color of like the dark red. It sadly matches the bowl that I put it in, but let me see if I can get it to do the color bit. See if I can get it at least to show that the color changes. There we go. Yep, so yeah, so it'll be able to do that. You should be able to, that's also another reason to put it into the fridge, if you want it to change color and be kind of playable with your body temperature like that, with your fingers, then cooling it down really fast would always make it so it's able to kind of turn it yellow, red, orange, play with it. But yeah, so that's how you make heat sensitive color changing slime. And honestly, if you want to make it yourself, it's super easy. I'm gonna add along with the video I'm gonna send you, I'm adding the recipe, and I'm gonna put a link on how to find the thermochromatic pigment so you can make it at home if you want to make it again, trying with like different colors, or just if you wanted to make it for fun. But yeah, I hope to see you guys next time for the next craft, and I'll see you soon.